What if I told you wealth was never about luck? What if there's a hidden structure the rich quietly repeat, and nobody ever taught you? What if what's holding you back isn't your income, but the way you think about money? And what if a single shift in perspective could unlock a door you've never seen before? Will you stay until the end to find out? Or walk away from the moment that could change everything? They say wealth is a secret, reserved for the lucky. But the truth is much clearer than that. Most people who built massive fortunes didn't rely on luck. They followed structure. A mindset. A repeatable system. Almost like a formula. And when applied correctly, the results become predictable. This isn't fantasy. It isn't legend. It started with a real man. John D. Rockefeller. The first dollar billionaire in American history. Proof that wealth can be engineered. Not wished for. Rockefeller didn't succeed because he stumbled into opportunity. He succeeded because he noticed what others ignored. While most people dreamed about being rich, he tracked every cent. When others feared debt, he used other people's money as leverage. And when reputation was seen as something symbolic, he turned it into financial credit. Something he could borrow against. While the world tried to sell oil, he controlled the routes, the cost, the infrastructure. He didn't just join an industry. He owned the system that powered it. Welcome to Financial Awakening. If you're here, it means you're not satisfied with working, spending, and worrying about money for the rest of your life. You know there has to be a better structure. A clearer plan. This video won't promise shortcuts. But it will show you how wealthy individuals think, act, and build systems that work. Especially in a modern market like Singapore, where clarity, discipline, and leverage matter. Before we continue, subscribe to support Financial Awakening. It gives us the motivation to create content that's practical, structured, and focused on real financial growth. Now pause for a moment. If wealth is a skill, not luck, which belief about money is currently limiting your growth? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm listening. In the real world, the difference between the poor and the wealthy isn't how much money they earn. It's how clearly they track every dollar, where it goes, and where it comes back from. Rockefeller understood this earlier than most. While many people work their whole lives, only to see their bank balance hit zero at the end of each month. He started with one simple, but life-changing habit. He wrote everything down. Not casually. Not loosely. But with intention, like he was following a map to treasure. To him, money was a river. If you don't know where the river flows, you can't control it. And in Singapore, this is even more true. Yes, income can be high. Yes, opportunities are real. But living costs, taxes, housing, insurance, and competitive lifestyles silently drain wealth. That's why many earn well, but keep nothing. Not because they're weak, but because there is no system. When Rockefeller tracked every income, every expense, every cent of interest and every debt, he wasn't writing numbers. He was building a decision system. With data, he could see what others could not. Where money leaked. Where growth was possible. What to tighten. What to scale. That's when money stopped being emotional and became strategic. Most people today do the opposite. They spend based on feelings and try to earn based on hope. That road leads to pressure, exhaustion, and debt. When you don't know where your money is going, you slowly lose confidence in yourself. When you can't see what your cash flow could become, you live only for today. And when the future is unclear, financial fear kills ambition. Rockefeller wasn't rich because he made money. He was rich because he knew how to keep it, direct it, and make it work for him. If you want to change your financial life, start with the smallest shift. Track your cash flow. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to begin. One notebook. One spreadsheet. One budgeting app. Clarity brings control. Control brings confidence. And confidence is where financial freedom starts. Leverage is not recklessness. It's the ability to use the strength of others to open doors you cannot push alone. Rockefeller understood this long before he became wealthy. He didn't borrow to spend. He borrowed to build. Debt wasn't a burden to him, it was a tool. Not every loan is dangerous, only the ones taken without a plan. That is where the divide begins, between those who rise and those who remain stuck. In Singapore, the mindset of avoid debt at all costs traps many people in place. Fear of debt keeps them from investing. Fear of risk keeps them from expanding. Fear of being wrong keeps them from moving. Yet the paradox is this: refusing to borrow can sometimes mean refusing the chance to grow. Debt doesn't make people poor. Misusing it does. Rockefeller borrowed only when he knew how the borrowed money would pay itself back and continue to earn more. He treated borrowed capital like a bridge, not a noose. The real pain in Singapore isn't low income. It's high cost. Housing, healthcare, education, lifestyle, everything demands more. People work to survive instead of working to expand. In that fear, they miss opportunities. Rockefeller never borrowed to fund his present lifestyle. He borrowed to build his future. That is the dividing line. Some see debt as a hole, others see it as a ladder. You cannot save your way to wealth in an economy that grows faster than your savings. At some point, you must leverage, not blindly, strategically. If a loan helps you earn more than it costs, that is not danger, it is direction. If borrowed money puts you in rooms you could never enter otherwise, that is advantage. Rockefeller didn't become a billionaire because he had money. He became one because he could use money that wasn't his, without losing control of himself. The real question is not, how much do I have? But, how much can I command? If you want to break the limits around you, don't ask, do I have enough money? Ask, do I have the mindset to use resources wisely? Because sometimes, the only door to a different life is the door you must be willing to borrow the key for. Financial credibility isn't about image. It's about access. Rockefeller knew that in the world of money, some doors only open for those whose word carries weight. When he borrowed, he wasn't just borrowing capital, he was borrowing trust. And he repaid it, every time. No excuses. Not out of fear, but out of clarity. If credibility collapses, future wealth collapses with it. In Singapore, where finance runs on transparency, credit scores, repayment discipline, and long-term trust, this principle is even sharper. Trust expands possibilities, doubt shuts them down. The deepest pain isn't being broke. It's being seen as someone unworthy of opportunity. Many people in Singapore earn well, have skills, have goals, yet a late payment, an unplanned loan, a broken commitment costs them more than money. It costs them access. It costs them leverage. They aren't stuck because they lack talent. They're stuck because no one is willing to bet on them. When financial credibility disappears, rebuilding it is harder than rebuilding wealth. Rockefeller had moments where he ran out of cash, but he never ran out of credibility. He understood that every decision has a price. Paying late has a price. Ignoring debt has a price. Borrowing without a plan has a price. And that price is always higher than expected. Because it takes away the ability to raise capital, to collaborate, to build the future. Financial credibility is the most expensive invisible asset a person owns, unseen, but decisive. In Singapore's competitive system, promises are a currency. Keeping them is leverage. When banks, investors, or partners believe you will deliver, they don't just give you money, they give you acceleration. That's why Rockefeller could raise funds with just his word. He turned discipline into reputation, and reputation into access. If you want to change your financial life, don't just aim to make money. Aim to become someone others can trust with money. Pay on time. Keep your word. Calculate before you act. Because sometimes, the biggest breakthrough in your life won't come from how much you have, but from how much confidence others have in you. Rockefeller's greatest difference wasn't that he found something to sell. It was that he built the place where everyone else had to come to sell. While most businesses chased revenue, he built the foundation that generated revenue. Instead of fighting for market share, he built the roads. Instead of just selling oil, he controlled the systems that moved it. Others sold the product. He owned the path the product depended on. That is the advantage that money alone can't buy quickly, but the right investments can create over time. In Singapore, this lesson is especially sharp. It's a fast market, competitive, expensive, and unforgiving. Those who only work harder stay behind. Those who only sell one thing fear losing it. But those who invest in infrastructure, digital systems, automation, operations, networks, distribution, gain control of the game. They don't need attention. They don't need noise. They only need to own the points the market cannot function without. And in a world where costs rise every year, the one who controls cost controls profit. This is what many people miss. Wealth doesn't come from adding more workload. It comes from building systems so your workload no longer determines your income. Infrastructure isn't just machines and assets. It can be a skill that prevents repeating mistakes, a process that lets others execute for you, software that reduces labor, or a network that opens doors. These investments don't show up immediately as cash. They show up later as freedom. If you build what others rely on, you don't need to win every transaction. You just need the market to keep moving, and it will eventually move through you. That is wealth by position, not effort. So instead of asking, how do I earn more? Start asking, what can I build that money must pass through? Because in the end, the seller gets paid once. The owner of the infrastructure gets paid forever. In the end, wealth doesn't begin with money. It begins with structure, clarity, and mindset. Rockefeller didn't rise because he worked harder than everyone else, but because he understood what every dollar was doing for him. He tracked his cash flow to stay in control, used leverage intentionally to grow, protected his credibility to access trust, and invested in infrastructure to secure long-term advantage. In a market like Singapore, fast, competitive, and expensive, hard work alone is not enough. You need systems that let money work for you. Core lesson: wealth isn't luck. It's architecture. You build it. How to apply it now: track your finances, protect your credit, borrow with purpose, not emotion, invest in skills, tools, and systems that multiply what you already have. A question for you: if you could change just one money habit today, what would it be? Comment your answer below so others can learn from your perspective. And if this content gave you value, subscribe to support financial awakening. It helps us create more content that truly matters.